Season 7 was an incredible addition to the history of the North American Racing League, but it's time for the next step, Season number 8. And thus, here we are at the Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello as qualifying gets going for round number 1. Welcome to Pit Stop TV in the virtual Tuscany, Italy. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV with Zach Lindgren alongside this season, and it's a pleasure to join you for coverage of the North American Racing League GT3 Season number 8. Tonight's coverage from Mugello is brought to you by Muradness, by JS Consulting, and by Screw Compressor Service Incorporated. This is going to be a fun one, Zach. Of course, your introduction proper to the North American Racing League GT3 cars, piloted by some of the Sim's best, at one of the Sim's best but newest racetracks, track ID 498. It's new. It is Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello.
Yeah, I'm honestly really excited to see how this track plays out. Like you said, Andrew, I'm not really too familiar with this track at all. Actually, I just purchased it probably about 10 minutes ago just to kind of get a feel on what the drivers are going to have to deal with. A lot of elevation changes. We were kind of talking about it prior to the broadcast, was about how quick these cars are going to be getting around this track and how much downforce may play into it. We can see turn 1 probably being the biggest part of that track, or part of the possibility of passing, just because of how long the front straightaway is. And one thing that I did kind of want to mention is how pit road kind of blends into turn 1 and how drivers have to stay to the utmost right until turn 1. I feel like that might be a bit of a talking point as the race goes on, but I'm really excited to see how these drivers tackle this track. Like I said, brand new track to me, so it's going to be really interesting to just kind of get a feel on what this track has to offer and what it can produce as far as racing wise.
Brand new track to the series as well. This series has never been to this side of Italy, usually racing over at Monza. We ran Monza last season, or even a couple of trips out to Imola, but never yet to Mugello. And this is also the first broadcast here at Mugello for us at Pit Stop TV. Here's a look at the full schedule for season number 8. That should say season 7. I'll fix that. Or sorry, it should say season 8, not season 7. I'll fix that moving forward. Regardless, oh, it didn't update the graphic. Hang on, did I put it in a different bin? I'll do this the old-fashioned way. Give me 2 seconds, I promise. Wow, I don't know why that's not... Anyways, let me find it in OBS. Image, yes, beautiful, all these good things. I will get into where I need to be. I know I added the image to the ATVO theme. I don't know why it didn't pop up, but we can do this and show you this way. This is the schedule. There we go. Mugello in round 1, of course, here in Italy. Then we take about a month off until Sebring. We go on down to Florida. Then it's all the way up to Canada for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Then Charlotte right in the middle of the season, followed by Donington Park. 2 really rough and tumble road courses. Of course, the Charlotte Roval is so difficult in these GT3 cars and will be a big battle, I think, for these guys for that round. Donington Park also very tight racing line. Definitely high contact situation. Portland is also a brand new track here for the league. That'll be a lot of fun. Brand new to iRacing as well. And then the Chicago Street Course, another new track here for the North American Racing League. And then it's off to Zolder for round number 8. We'll talk more about the schedule as the night goes on and as the season goes on. But for now, Zach, it's time to get into qualifying. Cars already doing their thing out there. Drivers already setting fast laps. And we can take a look at who is where so far in this qualifying session. As really to be expected, now that Yannick is on even footing with the rest of the field, Yannick Steinhoff and Thorsten Ulrich are expected to be league favorites this season, but there are some other new drivers in this field as well. Here's a look at Yannick Steinhoff, who is top of the speed chart right now in qualifying. 3 minutes left in this session, and one thing that I'll notice, going right off the heels of the Majors 24 last weekend, Zach, what is Yannick driving? What kind of car?
Oh, he's driving that McLaren out there, buddy. Yeah, like you were saying, coming off the heels of the Majors 24, a lot of people opted with the McLaren. So I mean, we were kind of talking about this pre-race just before the broadcast had started about how these guys are locked into their cars for pretty much from this point on throughout the season. So while this does seem to be the strongest of cars right now, we still have this is the first race and then a month jump in between from this race to the second race. A lot could happen to these cars as iRacing continues to progress as far as car setup, BOP wise, and all that fun stuff. So obviously the McLaren is going to be the selected choice, but I'm kind of excited now to see if these cars do continue to be the primary choice as far as the season progresses.
So yeah, these drivers will be locked into their car choice that they pick this evening if they want to earn points the rest of the season. And as we saw, cycling through a handful of drivers there, it's a lot of McLarens up top. Yannick Steinhoff, Eduardo Pecorini, Thorsten Ulrich, Paulo Goddard, David Schwartz, Hector Alvarez, Johan Fleming as well, all in McLarens this season. But Chris Winstone, we saw briefly in a Ferrari. Not sure exactly yet what Scott Kimbrough is in. It looks like it's another McLaren. So the top 10 is entirely McLarens. In fact, the top, look at this is Thomas Rayleigh, the top 12 are all McLarens except for Chris Winstone in his Ferrari 296. The next car that is not a McLaren is actually not a 14th, that's now 13th, is also a McLaren. That's Sam Sud. He is in a Mercedes this season. It's a lot of McLarens out there at the top end of the field, and I had a feeling it would be that way. Look at this, Jankowski also in a McLaren. I had a feeling after the Majors 24, we were in Split 2, everybody who just missed Split 1 was in there. That really was the precursor, I feel like, to seeing a ton of McLarens here in GT3 season number 8. Even Alex DeMarco down here in 26th in qualifying in a McLaren. Billy Bowerman in a McLaren, he's 23rd. Manuel Sendova, he is not in the McLaren, he's in a Porsche, but he's 26th. Christian Gritzko, hey, we got a Mustang out there. Armando Aarons, he is in a McLaren. So that is going to be the talk of this season, I think, the McLaren. And I almost feel like, Zach, we had a wider car choice in Season 7. Obviously, you weren't here for that, but now Season 8, this is going to be a big equalizer across a lot of the field. This is actually going to bring out maybe the best in some of these drivers.
No, I completely agree with you. If you're on even footing, it then comes down to both setup and driver preference and driver ability, really. Like you said, this does equalize a bunch of things. Like you said, we do got some different cars out there, but with the majority of the field being McLaren, it does bring in a lot of question marks as to who can get the most out of their car. And I think we're going to be seeing who can get the most out of their car as we get ready for the first heat race.
And you'll notice the first heat race, we've never had to say that before in one of these GT3 seasons that I can recall. We'll get into that in a moment. Want to first thank our partners here with the league. Muradness, JS Consulting, Screw Compressor Service Incorporated, and new this season, Rocket Designs. Also want to thank those here at Pit Stop TV, Whiplash SimCams, ATVO, CC's Business, Cody Williams Design, Lucky Performance, and the North American Racing League. Race details, Whiplash SimCams race details. It's important. We just completed that 10-minute quali after the 60-minute practice. Next up, we have a 20-minute sprint race. There will be an invert of, I think these drivers can see it now in the sim, but I'm not going to say it yet because technically it is a secret until we get to the invert. But these drivers being in the sim, I believe, can see it. So they can see it. I'll leave it a surprise to everybody watching across our platforms here on Pit Stop TV, but there will be an invert of a randomized number of cars between the sprint race and the feature. Then it's, of course, still fixed setup racing, now with a 35% fuel load, and I believe the incident limit has remained the same. But this is an opportunity for these drivers to have 2 goes at earning points every week now. Now, we will not be talking to drivers after the heat race tonight. If it proves that we can do so moving forward, we will give that a shot. But tonight, we're going to keep it simple. Just talk to drivers after the feature race, and we'll go off of the feature race results for those interviews. So if you're a driver maybe hoping to get a heat race win, we'll appreciate it and acknowledge it, but unfortunately, we won't be talking to you this evening. You'll have to try and win the feature race. I'm not actually briefed, and maybe Scott Reister watching can help me out here live on the fly. I'm not actually briefed on how the point scale is maybe different between the heat race and the feature race. but we will try and follow up on that as we will take our formation lap here. This will be a 20-minute race. I would anticipate 11, maybe 12 laps of racing here in this sprint race, and then double that for the feature. These guys have that formation lap though, Zach. We don't expect pit stops. It might be on the edge for some if they burn too much fuel here on the formation lap, but this is going to be a straight-up, pure race for 20 minutes.
And I think this kind of does give us an idea of what this race is going to be. No pit stops, straight up racing through the rest of it, through the 20 minutes of it. So I think this is going to be a good kind of testament to see, obviously, what we're going to see tonight, obviously with some strategy involved, but hey, no pit stops, just straight racing for 20 minutes. I'm excited for it. It's going to, I think it's going to be a good show.
Watching the field cycle through, looks like we even have a Corvette back there. I would suspect that might be Ricardo Delgado all the way, or maybe Joshua Benjamin. Let's actually go through some of the car choices while we have this opportunity on this extended formation lap. And yes, that is Joshua Benjamin out there. So this will help us go through, kind of learn some of the field. Joshua Benjamin there in the number 78 Chevrolet Corvette. Edgar Ruiz out there in an Acura out of Puerto Rico. Mike Braun out of the U.S. will be starting from the pit lane, it looks like. Let me cycle through. Miguel Colon looks like we'll start from the pit lane. Robert Rodagnoli will start from 37th. And you know what we haven't done, Zach? I got used to not doing it for the Majors 24. We need to go through the grid. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go through the top 10 here. On pole, Yannick Steinhoff starting from first place. Of course, this will show overall positions. Eduardo Pecorini will start from second, starting from third. Thorsten Ulrich starting from the starting from the fourth spot will be Paulo Gudai. Starting from fifth will be Johan Fleming. David Schwartz from Division 1 in sixth place. Hector Alvarez there in seventh. And how about Chris Winstone? He'll be the pole sitter in Division number 2. He'll lead us to the green for that class from 8th overall. From 9th position, it'll be Scott Kimbrough. And from 10th, Andre Da Silva.
Continuing on, P11 is going to be Jake Browder. Thomas Rayleigh will be P12 next to him. Bobby Flack, and then Sam Soyd will be 14th behind him. Tomek Janikowski will be 15th. Mark D. Reynolds will be 16th. Dean Kerr 17th. Ricardo Delgado will be 18th. Francesco Antonicelli.
Yeah.
There we go. I apologize. It will be at P19. Kevin Peak will round out our top 20.
21st, Ryan Passage. 22nd, Jose DeLeo. Starting from 23rd, Lucas Souza, then Billy Barabin. Back to 25th, it'll be Andy Miller alongside Anthony Wayand, then Manuel Sandoval and Alex DeMarco. To complete your top 30, Christian Gritzko and Armando Aarons.
Mitch Benaventura will be P31. Scott Angelo will be 32nd. Mark Boley will be 33rd. Chow apologize. It will be 34. Trin will be 34. Dan Willis will be 35th. Craig Jessen will be 36th. And Robert Gadanoli will, like you had mentioned, well, no, he popped up on my screen, will be starting P38. And then from there, we'll have some drivers behind Miguel Colon, Mike Braun. Didn't take any times. Will be, as far as on the grid, will not be there, but will be inside our top 39. Mike Braun will be starting from the pits in P40.
And we also have Edgar Ruiz and Joshua Benjamin tagging on to the back end of the field. Let's turn the engines down and turn the engines up. For the first time, turn the music down. There we go. Turn the engines up. We're breaking off the rust. We're racing now in Italy. Here we go. 20 minutes in the sprint race. To the first corner, it is a rush to that first apex. Yannick Steinhoff, Eduardo Pecorini at the front of the field. He falls back. Thorsten Ulrich moves on through. McLaren on McLaren Violence for third. It's Eduardo Pecorini over Paulo Gudai for now as they all work through the first few S's. And there is an incident at the back. Oh, Samsoy broadside. That's the number 7. Big incident.
Big incident, already some damage for Sam Soyd, not the way he wanted to start the heat race, but then again, this is just the heat races. to kind of get your bearings as to what we will see. Samsoid already might look like, yep, he's going to have to tow as we continue to take a look at the front of the field here.
We saw Jankowski out in the barriers out of, I believe, turn number 6. Through the rest of the lap, it seems like everybody's gotten single file and thinned out at this point. Chris Winstone still leading down in division number 2. He's over Andre Da Silva and Jake Browder, who are D1 drivers this season. Browder has got some company behind in the form of Mark Reynolds, who's in his trusty Porsche as he ride on board into, I believe this is turn 12, the carousel kind of hairpin, if you will, at the tail end of the lap. I love this switchback right here that these guys go through at 13 and 14, and then it's another kind of carousel hairpin for 15 to end the lap.
I really like what I'm seeing as far as what the track has to offer. There's not really a lot of runoff. This kind of forces you to stay on the track. Obviously, you see the green just off the rumble strips. The drivers can use that, but it looks like there's just a bunch of grass, a bunch of sand traps on the other end of it, so this is going to force the drivers to stay on the track. We're pretty lined out right now, but I really like what I'm seeing so far as what the track has to offer race-wise.
One car dipping to the pit lane, Francesco Antonicelli. That's the number 61 driver. He is heading to the pits already. And he's in one of those trusty McLarens. I suspect this is a penalty possibly. Maybe it's a fast repair. So no penalty there for Antonicelli. And it looks like one other car in the background, Kevin Peak, into the pit lane in a Porsche this season. He'll also take a fast fix. Let's go back and, of course, do as we sometimes have to do and take a look back at what happened there, lap number 1. This is where the craziness begins. The 17 of Braun got sideways, then Samsoid followed. Kevin Peak got that damage there along with Antonicelli. I'm not really sure how Jankowski spun around, but that's a preliminary look at what happened somewhere around the top of the hill. Let's watch it from maybe the blimp. And it started with that number 17 of Mike Braun. I'm sorry, Scott Kimbrough. There's some checkup through 2 and 3.
Yeah, a little bit of a checkup there.
So he's the light blue and pink car with the black and... Yeah, okay, he just spun on corner exit. It's strange that seems to have triggered all of the rest of the chaos.
Well, definitely put him behind for sure as far as on track wise, but it did keep him out of harm's way with the rest of the wrecking that happened here. Kind of, Samsoid just got a little bit of a tank slap and it sent his car for a ride. Brought him back broadside right across the track.
He actually got hit. It was Jake Browder moving over into his left front. Let's watch this again from his onboard. Watch that car on the left side. You can just see passing him there, and then there's Browder coming into frame. Browder comes over, boom, into Samsoid. That spins him around in front of so much of the field. He gets hit there by Peak and by Antonicelli. And then, there's Antonicelli down into the corner. Something happened to Jankowski, and I'm still trying to figure out how he ended up backwards in the barriers. Here he is down to that same incident. So he is light blue. Oh, wow, great miss. But coming back onto the racetrack, he actually gets clipped by the 31. And that is what sends him around. The 31 this season is going to be Ricardo Delgado. Huh. That sheds a little more light.
Yeah, obviously with all the cars scattering, it's pretty difficult to have an understanding of there is a car to your left or to your right, especially coming into another corner like that. So I don't really fault him for trying to take the apex there. It just, a car was already there to his inside and had nowhere to go for either of them, really.
Watching Ricardo Delgado here. That's a great miss by Jankowski. But then Ricardo's still there on the left side of the track, and he tried to back out, it looked like, but Jankowski came over. That is just a bad situation at the start of a race. Two guys trying to go for the same piece of real estate after a crazy first lap incident. 5 minutes complete. We're coming around to complete lap number 3 of an expected 12. Again, no pit stop expected here in any of the sprint races this season. They'll be labeled, though, as heat number 1 all season long as we work back down the front straightaway. Something we haven't yet touched on, weather conditions, as Yannick Steinhoff goes fastest. He is your race leader. Weather conditions brought to you by Cody Williams Design. An ambient temp of 80.4 degrees, mostly cloudy, and yet look at that track temp, Zach, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That is pretty toasty. That is when you can complain about summer heat.
And it, well, us over here in North Carolina, I think we've gotten pretty used to complaining about the summer heat already, but that does kind of shed a light on how some of those cars kind of lost it by themselves trying to get back onto the gas. The track is slick. The cars, cold tires were not really set in just yet, trying to get back on the throttle, and the tire spun. So, I mean, this is just going to be another one of those situations that these drivers are going to have to deal with. It looks like everyone right now is actually doing a pretty good job of dealing with those kind of race scenarios, but I mean, that is a toasty temperature for this track to be sitting at.
Moves up to 110 or 111 degrees now, rather, as there's calm winds out of the north. You see the humidity sitting at 34%. Nothing too crazy. It's not a super sticky racetrack by any means, but it is definitely hot, a little bit slick, and we're going to see that, I think, be an issue over the course of the day. Side by side here, DeMarco and Aarons. Aarons new to the series on the inside there in car 697. DeMarco in car number 2. He has been here for a season or two. Gets passed up by Aarons. We're still getting used to all these drivers, new teams and everything. Here's DeMarco, though, out of the United States. He follows in line there in 7th place now in division number 2. And, of course, Zach, as we get this season started, a very important detail with the North American Racing League is how these drivers earn their points. Now, I don't quote me on the exact points scale with the heat race versus the sprint race versus the feature, because it is a shorter race length. I don't know if it's going to be a smaller point scale or not, but typically the way the points are scored in the North American Racing League is on an overall scale. So everybody earns their points per their overall finish in the race. From there, they are broken down into their separate divisions. So Division 1 and Division 2, they're racing each other on the racetrack properly. They need to pass one another at times, and they got to figure that out at times. You might have a fast D2 driver every once in a while, like Chris Winstone, inside the top 10, impacting that overall finish result for some of the D1 guys. That's part of it. That is Chris Winstone. It has to go for those spots. He's got to try and earn more points over the rest of Division number 2. So we will see that clash a little bit as the season goes on. Meanwhile, DeMarco continues to slide. He's now down to 8th spot in Division 2. Make it now 9th position. Make it now 10th position almost, as Manuel Sandoval nearly passed him. Wow. DeMarco headed the wrong direction.
Looks like he's not really into the track right now. The car, or his confidence level of the car isn't really there. You can see him, right there, go off just a little bit, take the lefts into the dirt. So maybe just right now he's trying to get a feel for the car, like you said, Andrew. There are points to be had in the heat race. Maybe not as much as the feature, but there are points to be had. So right now I think he's just trying to get a feel for the car as far as what he needs to do to keep the car on track, to keep it fast. But going the wrong direction is not how you want to start out the season.
We'll keep tabs on DeMarco the rest of the evening. For now, we're going to move up to your car number, Zach, number 85. Mark D. Reynolds typically runs the 999, but this season opting to change things up. Number 85 here, he's chasing down number 3, Bobby Flack. This will be for the 10th position overall, but since Chris Winstone from Division 2 is ahead of these guys, that's actually going to be for 11th and 12th on the racetrack. Winstone running up in 9th overall. You see him there in the foreground in his white and blue Ferrari 296. We've also got Jose DeLeo. No, that's a lap car. That is Jankowski right behind them. Here's Jankowski's onboard. He, of course, after his incident where he was backwards into the barrier a little while ago, he is trying to come back through the field. Unfortunately, he's not going to get much. It's going to be slim pickings for driver number 11 the rest of this race. It shows him 20th in Division 1 right now. That is much further down the order than he wanted to be.
Oh, 1,000%. But if you're going to have a problem, you want to have it right at the start of the race. And this might just be a blessing in disguise so he can go out there, try to understand what the limits of the car are. The series did have a 1-hour practice beforehand, but this is a good way to get an understanding of what the car needs in race pace, what you need to do as far as being around really a bunch of McLarens like he is as well. So this is going to be more of a learning aspect for him right now. So I think with him being in this bit of a mix, this is going to be a great learning opportunity for him.
Some craziness here among the Maradnas teammates. Over the hill we go, down into the apex here at turn 12, and that is a big move from David Schwartz, reigning series champion. He goes by Dan Willis, his teammate, who's in a different class. Willis is down in division number 2. Kimbrough bullies his way by. He's going to get that pass made on Willis, and this is that stuff that I'm talking about. Deep in the field, you've got these guys racing. Despite being in different divisions, they're earning points just the same, and Kimbrough bullied his way in, and look at that, a spin now, maybe not. A great catch. There it is. Crash.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
Edgar Ruiz, Chow Trin, Scott Angelo wadding it up there out of turn 15.
Drivers trying to get everything that they can, trying to get onto the front stretch, and like we had mentioned before, the front stretch looks to be the highest downforce possible that these cars are going to have to withstand, because it's the longest straightaway. These guys trying to get every little inch, and right there it just seemed to bite about 3 or 4 of them.
Let's watch from Chow Trin's onboard. He's going to get swept up in somebody else's mess here. Those 3 Maradnas cars were throwing haymakers. Ruiz just kind of tipped his nose in there, and then it all gets worse. I think he might have tried to move over and ends up collecting Chow Trin, who was minding his own business, trying to be the benefactor of all of that. You see the big damage to his left rear. That is a lot of toe damage. That is a lot of suspension damage. Let's watch this one more time. This is going to include Scott Angelo. He is in that Ferrari that you see behind the Mercedes and McLaren. So middle of the field, Angelo, big swerve over to the left. Contact there between Kimbrough, and that's going to be the 127 of Willis. He's got the red trim on his car. Edgar Ruiz comes in that orange and red car. He makes contact with Angelo. Angelo, wow. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he was trying to get behind Ruiz. But my NASCAR mind, Zach, that looks awfully like retaliation.
That's kind of where I was leaning to. I kind of want to be with you as well as far as the NASCAR mind, but I mean, like we had spoken about a little bit ago, just the straightaway is going to be the highest downforce part of this track, so it's very possible that he was just trying to get in behind, use the draft a little bit to try to get his momentum back. Obviously, with a little bit of a slide happening here, he's going to try to get most of it back. Man, it's bad situation for all of these guys.
Yeah, that's the onboard there with Scott Angelo. We'll let that one be and let admins rule as they need to. Angelo, though, is getting back on the racetrack in his number 68 Ferrari. Further up the field, there's a decent battle inside the top 10 that we need to keep our eyes on as time dwindles down. I'm not used to this. I'm used to having an hour-long race from Season 7 and even years past with seasons past. Longer races here in the North American Racing League per usual. Tonight, though, this is a wake-up call to what we're going to have all season long. Chaos early in this 20-minute race. This is going to keep us on our toes all season long, I feel like, Zach. And it's going to be a lot of fun when we get places like... honestly, the 3 tracks that stand out to me will be Charlotte, Portland, and Chicago. They're all on the shorter end of the spectrum, shorter laps. They aren't really draft tracks in any way. They're definitely driver tracks. And they have, I would say, somewhat simplistic layouts. Obviously, the Roval is a little more complicated because it has to fit within the confines of Charlotte Motor Speedway. But otherwise, they're all relatively simple in their layouts, and they are going to be very, very interesting races to sit back and watch. We do have what looks like a penalty to my untrained eyes, Zach. Jake Browder headed down the pit lane. You're in the session. Is that a penalty for car 74?
Looking through, we have had some steward activity for Browder. Yes, he was black flag, so this is going to be a drive for Jake Browder as he comes through pits. He exits now, but yes, that was a penalty on him. We do have a disqualification of Scott Angelo on the number 68. He was disqualified by the stewards.
So I dare say the stewards saw what we saw, and again, I want to give him our benefit of the doubt, but it looked like retaliation, which you don't want to see. Certainly not in this style of racing. It's not tolerated. So he will have his conversation, I'm sure, with serious stewards and admins moving forward. Whether that was actually intentional or not, it's hard for us to say. 4.5 minutes to go here in our sprint race. Here's a little battle between Browder and Kimbrough. They each had their incidents there on lap 1. And here they are battling on lap number 9 of 12 for tonight's sprint race. Now, I think most of you guys watching will be accustomed to hearing us talk about the Lucky Performance, Lucky Break of the Day, and the North American Racing League Driver of the Day conversation. Those will still come up, likely in our 40-minute race. There's just a little more room to talk and think about those sorts of things. This 20-minute race, all season long, I'm telling you, Zach, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, and I kind of want to call back to what you were talking about as far as the tracks go. And I think you... Oh, Browder, yet again off track. Looks like he's going to come out and stops just before the track to let these cars go by, but looks like he's got damage to the front end. We'll return that conversation once we figure out what happened to Browder here.
He was racing with Kimbrough. I just mentioned when they were at the top end of the circuit, top of the hill, these two had that, they each had their moments on lap 1. Kimbrough spun, Browder got into Samsoid, and now Kimbrough dives here on Browder, and then Browder just gets loose. Oh, my. Yeah.
Just another one of those situations. Tried to gas it up maybe just a little bit too early. The car was just unsettled, and that thing came around. That back end really, really playing a havoc, which is really cool to see as far as these cars go. You don't really see these cars get a little tail happy, and we've seen that twice already just in this heat race alone. So these guys are digging for as much as they can to try to get as many points as they can for the heat race. We've right on board with Schwartz here. See cars going off right in front of him. He's going to look to the outside.
And he'll make that pass on Manuel Sandoval, a new driver here. These guys are down in 22nd and 23rd overall. They've got a lot of that Division II field ahead of them. So to recap where things are at, leading the race by 3.7 seconds nearly is Yannick Steinhoff. No surprise there, the German, always electric in these GT3 cars. He was in some of the higher splits, I believe in split number 1 in the GT3 class for the Majors 24 this past weekend. In second place, it's Eduardo Pecorini. And you'll see the new iRacing flares down bottom right of the screen, the country flares or flags. So these drivers have been able to claim whichever country they'd like in the iRacing service. We don't have graphics made for every single one, but most popular countries should be represented. Looks like we need to make one there for Pecorini possibly. Thorsten Ulrich out of Germany though, he's in third. Paulo Godai out of Brazil runs in the fourth spot, and Johan, well, let's not cut from this battle, hang on. Let's give this a second to develop. Looked like Godai had a run, and that falls apart. So with a minute and a half to go, let's continue rolling through the field. Johan Flammen out of Germany in the fifth spot. Hector Alvarez out of Puerto Rico runs in sixth. Andre da Silva in seventh out of Portugal. Thomas Rayleigh out of the United States in eighth. And to complete your D1 top 10, it's Bobby Flack in ninth and Mark Reynolds in the 10th spot. Down in division number 1, led by Chris Winstone here in the number 37 car. There's a look at his Ferrari 296, the highest non-McLaren in the field. That's impressive. Down in the second spot in class will be Jose De Leo from the Mustang of old to the Mercedes of new. Then Billy Barrowman down in a McLaren in third. Dean Kerr out of Ireland, how about that, in a Mercedes in fourth. Then Ryan Passage in the fifth spot. Sixth place in class, Armando Aarons, as he's going to pass up one car. That's Mitch Buenaventura actually passing Aarons. Buenaventura promoted to D1 this season. Aarons is in 6th. Christian Gritzko in 7th. Down in 8th in Division number 2, it's Alex DeMarco. In 9th, it's Anthony Wayand. And in 10th, Dan Willis. And you might be wondering, Zach, and anybody watching, why did I just make sure to go through the entire field? Well, it's because we already have the white flag. Barney is using some telekinesis powers to wave that flag outside of his own hand. That's okay. We're already on the white flag lap, brought to you by Whiplash Simcams. And when this heat ends, because it is a heat race in a heat race session, we will not have a chance to go through the full results. So take a look now on this ticker. Where is your favorite driver? We're seeing pit stops, a ton of pit stops on the last lap here. A lot of drivers with not enough fuel. Reynolds, DeLeo, Bowerman, Passage, Buenaventura, Ahrens, Gritzko, so many drivers pitting at the very last second, taking the white flag.
I think this is just going to show us what we can expect for that race or for the future after the fact. You see the 85 here, Reynolds get rolling off of pit road. He seemed to be the first one in, first one out. So I was not expecting to see pit road, as it looked like it was going to be a lot busier as we jump on with Steinhoff here, who's just been absolutely class of the field, gapped the field since the last time you said it by another 3 seconds. He's out front of Pecorini by 6.5, almost 7 seconds now. Steinhoff on a heater of a lap. He set a fast lap just before taking the white, so he's probably trying to go for another purple coming to checkers here.
Yannick Steinhoff powering away to a heat race win. He's now got an 8-second lead over Eduardo Pecorini. He has done a fantastic job, clearly, of managing pace, managing fuel, and setting sail from the rest of the field to complete our first ever heat sprint race in the North American Racing League. It's Yannick Steinhoff with the checkered flag. Thorsten Ulrich will come across in second in just a moment. Steinhoff, a fastest lap there, and a photo finish coming down to maybe fuel at the end. Johan Fleming will take the spot away from Eduardo Pecorini and from Paulo Godoy. He moves up to third place, and we have an all-German podium here. It looks like Chris Winster will come down to the start-finish line. He will take the Division 2 win. It'll be Dean Kerr coming somewhere around the bend now. There he is in his Mercedes to the start-finish line, just ahead of Sam Swade, who's a lap down. And boy, where is everybody else going to finish? It looks like one car out of fuel. Manuel Sandoval in the way. He gets clipped. Massive shunt.
Trying to lip it back to the start-finish line. Big implications for some of the points guys right here, especially some of the D2 guys. He will not be able to make it back to the line. So it looks like Land will be able to, just with no nose on that car, but he will be able to limp it back across the line. Photo finish right at it.
Wayand just getting back to the start-finish line. Dan Willis is slow. He has got maybe some damage to his nose as well. He is out of gas, it seems, trying to coast up the hill. And this could prompt an adjustment from race admins moving forward. I'm not saying they're going to budge on the fuel limit. I think they may leave it to drivers to decide how they need to manage things, but this is a wake-up call certainly to everybody, including admins. Do we need to add more fuel? Do we let these guys figure it out themselves? That's going to be the conversation, I think, between this week and next.
I think this does kind of play into the aspect of strategy still in the heat races. Like you said, we didn't think that they'd have to come down pit road for the heat races, but as you saw right there at the end, a lot of drivers had to opt in to make sure they could cross the line with the checkered waving as we see some of the final cars come through to take the checkered flag. That's going to be in the back of the driver's mind now for the rest of the season. Can they make it in the heat race? Do they have to play some sort of strategy maybe halfway through the heat race to try to complete it?
Couple of cars still trying to finish. Billy Bowerman, one of them. So while we have this extra time here at the checkers, this will be unofficial, but we can go through your unofficial race results here. Yannick Steinhoff, Thorsten Ulrich, Johan Fleming, your top three. I believe it's an all-German top three. I could be mistaken. Eduardo Pecorini in fourth, Paulo Godoy fifth, then Hector Alvarez, Andre Da Silva in your top seven, Chris Winstone, your top Division 2 driver in eighth, then Bobby Flack and Thomas Raley complete your top 10.
Ricardo Delgado will be 11th. Dean Kerr will be our second D2 driver finishing. He will finish P12 overall. David Schwartz will be P13. Alex DeMarco will be our third D2 driver. He'll finish 14th overall.
Oh, it resets.
G1. Oh, it does reset. I can keep going through if you'd like, but yeah, that's as far as some of our drivers D2 and D1. That's as far as we finished.
Well, this gives us a chance to kind of reset and look around the racetrack, and boy, that was pretty chaotic there at the end, obviously, but this feature race, I think, will be a lot more tame. I think these guys will have a better kind of realization that they need to be careful going into things. And let's see, are we going to see cars on track or not? This is a warm-up session of 5 minutes that these drivers are able to use if they choose. But while drivers decide whether or not to use it, I believe they can. Let's talk more about the series schedule this season, Zach. We talked about it at the top of the show. We'll do it again if maybe anybody who missed it. We're at Mugello here, Autodromo Internacional del Mugello here for round 1 this evening. Then we're off for about a month until we go racing at Sebring in Florida in July. We'll also hit Montreal before July is over. We break into August with Charlotte Motor Speedway for round number 4 on the road course there. I don't think we're going to have the updated NASCAR road course for that, so I believe we'll be on the 2023 version, if you will, of the Roval and road course there, which will have the somewhat shorter layout in the infield, but the proper chicane on the backstretch. We will also be heading out to Donington Park for round number 5. I'm not exactly clear on the particular layout there, but it's really just a matter of a hairpin if we add that hairpin or not. That it's Portland International Raceway, only one layout for Portland, only one layout for Chicago, and a very small difference in layouts for Zolder, so you get an idea of exactly what we'll be racing on the rest of the season. It really, honestly, Zach, this whole schedule leaves very little to be guessed as far as layout. You could maybe think we'd use the shorter layout here, but that's not been the case really ever, for the North American Racing League to use the shorter layout at a racetrack like Mugello. So we're on the Grand Prix layout here this evening, as has been documented. We'll be running the full layout at Sebring, and then Montreal has only got one layout. The Roval should be pretty crystal clear. Donington Park is a small discrepancy. Portland, Chicago, Zolder, pretty much either they only have one layout or it's a very minute difference in between their layouts. So I like this schedule. It's very clear as to what these drivers need to practice for.
I really like how you mentioned some of these tracks as far as the layout. In my personal opinion, I feel like if you're going to come to a track that puts on the best racing, that showcases the driver's full potential and full talent, I feel like you need to come to the biggest tracks, or the Grand Prix tracks, showcase the full track, showcase the drivers to their full extent, to their full talent. But I do like some of the tracks that come through the schedule here, like you had mentioned, Charlotte, Chicago, Zolder, some of these tracks that aren't as big as like we're seeing here in Mugello, Sebring, Canada, where a bunch of momentum can be based out on those tracks. Most of these tracks are actually what feels like position tracks. You've got to position yourself in order to have a decent finish. You can't really rely on speed. You have to rely on positioning and momentum, so to say. So I think the schedule here is going to be a beautiful mix of both speed and just positioning in general. It kind of throws a monkey wrench into the normal road course aspect of racing. So I really like how they laid out the schedule here as we get within a minute to the feature race.
And let's recap this evening's Whiplash SimCam's race details. We saw that 20-minute sprint race now. We do expect a pit stop in our 40-minute feature. And even then, I think it could be somewhat close on fuel, depending on how you manage things, depending on how much you actually fill up, if you hit the auto fuel button or not. I would not be surprised to see at least one driver make 2 fuel stops in this 40-minute race because maybe the mark was missed on managing fuel. It's a very tricky thing to do. You want to try and underfuel as much as you can and maybe save a little bit, so you might want to time it out so you're at the time of pitting, you'd be running out maybe turn 15 and then save that little bit of a straightaway so that you can underfuel for just a couple of seconds in the pit lane and get back on the racetrack ahead of somebody you're racing and try to hold them up while you're saving. I mean, it's a very, very interesting art that we talk about so much in these GT3 races, and I'm glad we're going to have it continuing on in at least some kind of way the rest of season number 8. Warm-up will conclude. Let's talk about weather conditions then as we move on into our new race session. You see the track temp there in warm-up was only 100 degrees, a significant cloud cover building up. Let's give it a second to adjust, as it often needs. But it looks like track temp has actually come way down, Zach. 91.1. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's why we give it a second to adjust. 101 degrees now that the sim has fully updated and sent us that data. That's A little bit cooler than we saw a little while ago, but still pretty hot.
Yeah, it's still going to be pretty a pretty greasy track. We saw it early in the heat races as far as the cars losing a bit of control, losing a bit of rear traction. Now, with cold tires, that still does play into, or that still does have a possible play at the start of this race. Now, with the track temp coming down 10 degrees, it is going to be maybe a little easier for these drivers to get on the throttle, but that's one of the things that we haven't really talked about, Andrew. These GT3s went through a whole iRacing update, a whole makeover, if you will, as far as tires, as far as handling. So these guys are pretty much dealing with a whole new brand of car that it really hasn't been discussed too much as of right now. So some of these guys may be trying to get a complete feel for how these cars should react, and as far as what they need to handle as the race goes on, as our staging area has completed and we are rolling now off the grid.
I'm glad you brought up the GT3 update, because it obviously was important for the Majors 24 last weekend. It is important for the rest of this season here in season number 8. We don't anticipate another update before the end of the season, but we are finishing right at the beginning of season number 4 here on iRacing, so there could be some tweaks made at the end of season number 8. We'll see as time goes on. But yeah, that's also going to impact car choice, because all the setups have been completely changed, wiped, redone, which means these fixed setups that we're racing on this season also have been changed and redone, and the feel is going to be different. That said, we've got a new grid. This lineup, of course, set by the results of that heat race, that 20-minute sprint. Although, Zach, there has been an invert of 15 cars. These drivers could see it. We wanted to hold that for you guys watching. 15 is the invert this evening. That will change as the season goes on. But Scott Kimbrough then is promoted to pole position here for our feature race. It'll be Alex DeMarco from 2nd, David Schwartz, Dean Kerr from row number 2. Row 3, Ricardo Delgado and Thomas Rayleigh. Row 4, Bobby Flack and Chris Winstone. And to complete your top 10 with the new lineup here via the invert, it's Andre Da Silva and Hector Alvarez.
One of your top 5 finishers of the heat race, Paulo Godoy, will be starting P11. Eduardo Pecorini will be starting P12. Johan Flamen will be 13th. Thorsten Ulrich 14th, and our winner of the heat race ran away with it. Yannick Steinhoff will be restarting 15th. He will kind of have to manage his stuff as he looks to come through the field. Mark D. Reynolds in the 85, you love to see it, will be starting P16. Jose DeLeo will be starting P17. Anthony Wayland will be starting 18th position. Armando Aarons will start 19th. And rounding out our top 20 will be Mitch Benaventura in P20.
Starting 21st in the feature race, it'll be Christian Gritzko down to division number 2. Francesco Antonelli, watch for him to move his way through the field from 22nd. Starting 23rd, Kevin Peake. He had a decent starting spot in the first race, but got wiped out. Joshua Benjamin came from the back in 40th spot, up to 24th there by the end of that heat. It'll be Craig Yessen there from 25th, Jake Browder from 26th, Edgar Ruiz from 27th spot, Ryan Passage from 28th, then Robert Guadagnoli and Lucas Souza to complete your top 30.
To get ready to get onto the front stretch, we'll run through this as quickly as possible. Dan Willis 31st, Billy Bowerman 32nd, Manuel Sandoval will start 33rd, Mark Bowley 34th, Tomek Janikowski will be starting at 35th. Sam Soyd, after his rough start to the heat race, will be starting 36th. He's got every car in front of him to go through. Chow Trin will be starting 37th, Andy Ray Miller will be starting 38th, Mike Braun 39th. And then some cars that did not grid as well, Miguel Colon and Scott Angelo 40th and 41st respectfully.
Well, Scott Angelo, if you recall, has been disqualified from the remainder of this event, so he will not make the call here for the feature race. Also worth noting, already some spicy conversations, some heated conversations in the North American Racing League Discord channels. Tomek Jankowski calling out Ricardo Delgado. We'll see how that goes the rest of the evening and the season as we move on into season number 8. Thanks for joining us here at Pit Stop TV. This is the beginning of the feature race for the North American Racing League in season number 8. Let's continue on here in round number 1, racing once again here at Mugello. Everybody moving around, some flinching, some diving to the first corner. 3 wide there, a little bit deeper in the top 10. So far, so good. A bump, a bang, a rub, a scrape as we work through the first corner.
Obviously, the outside is not where you
Spin.
want to be. A little bit of a checkup. We got a spin right in the middle of the track. These guys are going to have to take evasive actions. Can't really move now. The fact that you're on the track, now we could be able to move. We got 2 cars that had to stop, wait for the rest of the field to come through.
One of those is Edgar Ruiz. I'm sorry, not Edgar Ruiz, Dean Kerr. I saw Edgar Ruiz around earlier, and oh my gosh, Jake Browder in the wall again. The Duckhams, number 74, has got more trouble, and he has turned around there early on in this lap. The Division 1 drivers taking over the front end of the field. Kimbrough out front, David Schwartz in second. Schwartz, last season's champion, won that championship without ever stepping in victory lane. He is still looking for his very first North American Racing League victory.
Right now he's on the heels of it. There's still a lot of racing to go, but he's got the leader in sights, and he's not really let the leader get away. These top 2 have been able to put a gap on P3, which is as of right now, Alex DeMarco, who's right behind them, but Schwartz right now keeping the leader in sights, not really letting him get away. Probably still trying to get a feel for this car now that the track temp and everything else has changed, but Schwartz keeping the leader in check, making sure that he has a chance as this race progresses.
On board with David Schwartz, working onto the front straightaway. 1 lap going complete here in our feature race. And let's hold this for a second and see if there's a move into turn 1 or not. No move. David Schwartz will stay in line. I think that's a fuel-saving tactic there. Let's go back and see what happened here on lap number 1 at the start of the race. That you saw it there in the preview. Where does this start, though?
Obviously, you want to be on the inside for this hard bend, a hard right, a little bit of bumping, a little bit of tapping, but the wreck happens right here.
I can't tell. I'm not sure who that neon yellow car was. Oh my goodness, Chris Winstone, a header into the outside wall. There's a lot of chaos to digest here in this opening lap melee. And this is some of what Mugello sets up for, I suppose, because you do have this long run to turn 1. But I gotta see who was in front of Winstone there. It wasn't Andre da Silva, I don't think. That car, Bobby Flack. He was the guy who spun around and everybody tried to miss.
Had to check up a little bit in the corner to wedge the car, and on cold tires, as soon as it gets going, you can't really stop it. So these guys were able to get back rolling, maybe a little bit of damage to that white Radness car. But then there was a lot of havoc after 2 sets of corners. As we see here, Bobby Flack had to check up a little bit, car started going, and then there's just no stopping that thing.
You see the chaos, everybody trying to miss it. Going left, going right, going center. This is going to take more looks, a couple more anyways, here before we can really move away from it. Chris Winstone in the 37 car, he's going to take a big impact. Let's watch what happens for him. 1 in Division 2, of course, in that heat race. I would peg him as a championship favorite here. He got tipped by Browder and into the outside wall. That's a big hit. Christian Gritzko around in the madness there out of turn 4. Or rather, turn 3.
And I think it's just a product of obviously what we were talking about earlier. Cars start scattering, so it's difficult to gauge where they are around you. Probably thought he might have been a little bit clear. He was to the outside. Maybe the car who was inside didn't know that Gritzko was still out there. Gritzko was still out there. Or excuse me, Gritzko was the one who caught.
He gets tipped actually by the spinning triple-digit car that didn't quite catch. The 81 spins into it. There's too much going on, honestly, to identify every car involved. So I wish we could spend more time. Let's get one more look at it, but we've got to move on. This race is unfolding here. One more look, and then we'll kind of let this be. We'll just go with the static cameras for this. This is absolute insanity here on lap 1.
Almost 4 wide coming in turn 1. Some of these guys trying to get lined up, and that's just where the havoc starts.
Watch this camera. Wow.
A lot of these guys just trying to make sure they get back into position to get the rest of the race going. Get back on track, and it's just that's where the havoc ensues. Everybody kind of trying to claim the same spot.
As you see on the timer top of the screen. It has been quite a moment trying to digest everything from lap 1 as this race has evolved. We're on to lap 3 already of an expected 23. That may come down to 22 depending on pace and pit stops, but out front it's two McLarens leading, Kimbrough and Schwartz. This is a really good opportunity for a lot of drivers that might finish deeper in the field, usually based on qualifying, to move up. And actually, yeah, so it shows we're live. Why is it just showing those lap updates? Okay, were we not live? Maybe we weren't. iRacing is catching up. Now we're at live picture, I believe. So lap 4 has just begun. Regardless, this is an opportunity for guys who would usually finish top 10 to top 20 to advance up at the start of these feature races, just like Kimbrough has done, Zach, and sit here. Use this track position. It might work out for him.
It absolutely might. Now it's just a matter of keeping that car on track, keeping as much of a pace as he can. But like you said, Andrew, this does provide an opportunity for some of these guys that may not be towards the front in a regular grading situation that might have to be mired back maybe towards the top end or back end of the top 10 to have a chance to get out front, lead laps, possibly even have a good finish here. As we have a big battle here. I believe that's Steinhoff coming through.
Steinhoff is actually a couple spots back, so very similar paint schemes, actually. Steinhoff and Ulrich were teammates a season ago. Ulrich has remained over at Ride SimSport. Steinhoff has branched off over to what looks to be Pulse Motorsport or Esports. We'll get the exact name next race, but regardless, a bit of a team change there, but still very similar paint schemes. The colors are almost identical. That's the look there for Yannick Steinhoff and the Pulse machine. Right, you see the bright blue, the black, the white, the grays, and they move up 2 spots. Ulrich, it's a different design, same colors, just, yeah, very similar race cars between those two, and of course they're in the same manufacturer, which makes it even harder to try and differentiate. But regardless, Ulrich just went by Andre Da Silva, Yannick Steinhoff, and Alex DeMarco. Steinhoff is trying to move through here, and this is all for 6th position. This race gets inside the top 5 here, as Thomas Rayleigh is getting passed up by Hector Alvarez. Contact between those two, and Alvarez just hangs on.
Great bobble by the car. He takes the defensive line, makes sure he's going to minimize the blue. Does so a little bit. The 47 trying to get position there, was not able to. So Alvarez able to minimize any kind of bleeding there. Peccaroni wanted to get around. Obviously, that does save Peccaroni some time if he were able to, but he lost a little bit because of Alvarez's defense there. So I feel like that was a good move by Alvarez to make sure, as we have Flack now, D1, big damage to the car. He's going to have to tow.
We'll leave Eduardo Peccarini here for this update on Bobby Flack. He got the gravel off the corner and just got thrown into a slide. We'll take one more look at this. That's a big rear impact for Bobby Flack. Of course, we saw the issues on lap 1. He spun right in this part of the racetrack out of turn 2. Got through 2 okay, but out of turn 3, watch him on the exit of the racetrack right here. You can't really see him behind Buenaventura, but he got out to the gravel, and that car whipped right around on him and takes a rear impact that completely breaks the right rear drivetrain. It looks like only the left rear is spinning. So that is it for Bobby Flack. He will have to tow back to the pit lane, and that will be a significant chunk of time that he loses. There go the leaders. Nearly down to 10 minutes complete now in this race, 30 to go, and everything is finally starting to breathe and calm down for a moment. Maybe not for the race lead. That was a look from Schwartz.
Schwartz just letting him know, hey, I'm there. I'm not letting you go. That look, nice little nose look. Now I got to give it to Kimbrough there. Kimbrough didn't really flinch as far as Schwartz trying to peek his nose in there. Kimbrough made sure that he took the line that he needed to, but Schwartz not letting him go. As you mentioned, Andrew, he's still looking for his first win, and he looks to be on pace for it as of right now. He just got to get by Kimbrough, making that car 10 lanes wide as of right now.
I would certainly have to argue that Schwartz looks faster. Last lap, Schwartz was faster, in fact, by about 2.5 tenths or so. So clearly that number 1 car has got a bit of pace right now on Kimbrough, but even if he gets out into clean air, what can he really do? He'll get slowed down, he'll have the full brunt of the clean air to slow him down a little bit, and then everybody else will just catch back up anyways, and he'll be running out of fuel. So I think his best play, as agonizing as it's going to be, is to sit here in the 2nd spot. It might involve letting those guys catch up for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You'll just have to hold your own. If you're going to earn yourself a win here in the North American Racing League, that might just be how you have to do it.
Yeah, as you kind of said, Andrew, 3rd, 4th, 5th, kind of sitting lane and wake right now. They did get down to about a second or a second point 3 behind the leaders. They have caught up just a little bit, which probably is what prompting Schwartz to probably try to get a little aggressive with Kimbrough now that he's got more cars that he's going to have to deal with instead of just Kimbrough himself. So maybe Schwartz right now, maybe looking in the mirror, understanding that he's got 3 cars coming, as he's going to use the draft on the front stretch to try to get another run on Kimbrough here.
A look into the corner. Kimbrough very protective. Schwartz on the outside. That could be the inside, though, for turn 2. Kimbrough, though, comes over and just leans a shoulder there in the face of David Schwartz and goes right back on by. I love this kind of racing. This is just straight up, heads up at the front of the field. Yes, fuel is on their minds, but you'd still love to be first if you can be.
Oh, absolutely. And Schwartz right now, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Andrew. He probably feels like he's got a faster car. It looks like through this part of the track, though, Kimbrough's able to maybe build a little bit of the gap, but Schwartz looks hooked into the car or into the track as of right now. So it's gonna be fun to watch as this race starts to run itself down a little bit. See if these guys behind can catch up. As we see Rayleigh now almost under a second to these two. So P3 trying to throw his name into the mix as we start to whittle this race down little by little.
Yeah, Rayleigh putting in the work right now, the blood, sweat, and tears to catch up to that 2nd spot as Schwartz looks to the inside of Kimbrough again here at turn 12. Rayleigh moving over from Cross Continental Collective in Season 7 over to Nexus Esports for Season 8, and that is a larger, higher reaching deal, Zach. You'll probably recognize the Nexus Esports name from the oval side on iRacing just like I do. I recall Will Klein from Nork moving over there, racing with a bunch. So I definitely recognize that name. It's interesting to see it here on the road side, but clearly they're trying to organize their reach to be broadened, and Thomas Rayleigh is helping with that as he pioneers that team here into the North American Racing League. Oh, into the grass goes Schwartz. That might hold him back from an opportunity in turn 1 and might allow Rayleigh to catch up as there's a move from Pecorini looking to the inside, all while Steinhoff goes fastest. And Schwartz is maybe blinking out of the session here, Zach.
I mean, this is just one of the real things that we got to deal with as far as iRacing wise, right? Obviously you see it in real racing where engines expire, fuel lines, oil lines, whatever may happen get cut. This is what we have to deal with in iRacing. Connections getting cut, connection to the iRacing software gets cut. This is just something real that we got to deal with, and it's just unfortunate that Schwartz looks like he's going to have to be the example of it as we come back here to these two battling it out. And I mean, we were talking about Steinhoff and Ulrich a little while ago about how they were teammates at one point. I mean, they're racing pretty cordial right now. Steinhoff is just kind of laying in wake behind Ulrich right now, not really making any kind of move. He did just go fastest, and right now he's probably watching those leaders up there tangling it up a little bit. The top 5 getting into it. Well, we did see the leaders at one point tangling it up. Now that they're kind of re-separated thanks to the connection issue, it looks like from Schwartz that Kimbrough's been able to get away. But this is something that Steinhoff was enjoying seeing probably further up the road, that these guys were getting closer and closer together, slowing down their lap times just a little bit. And I'm sorry, as I was talking, David Schwartz did in fact drop to an upload packet loss, so he is now out of the session. It's going to be up to him whether he joins back or not.
And this could save Scott Kimbrough in more ways than one. He's now got that slightly larger gap back to Thomas Rayleigh, who's, of course, going to try and save fuel, I'd imagine, while trying to catch up to Kimbrough. So this buys him some time to maybe sit back, cool his tires down, save a little gas possibly, and he's got one less challenger to try and beat him here in the form of David Schwartz, who looked to be locked and loaded for his very first North American Racing League victory here this evening at Mugello. That has now changed. Deep in the top 10, though, here's a nice little battle. Alex DeMarco in car number 2. That's that white and black Maradnas car on the right-hand side of the racetrack. He gets passed up by Mark Reynolds. Here comes Miguel Colon in his new paint scheme. Colon goes by into 10th, and then look at that car right behind. That is Johan Flamen with no front bumper or splitter on that McLaren. He is battling with no front downforce, more or less, and he's still riding in 12th overall, riding up to Alex DeMarco to put him in his midst as they're side by side between Miguel Colon and Mark Reynolds. They sort that out. But DeMarco happens to be your Division 2 leader currently, over Chris Winstone, Dan Willis, Jose DeLeo, and Chao Trin being your top 5. We'll keep an eye on Division 2 as the night goes on, but right now, all eyes remain on Division 1, particularly in that top 4. Here they are, through the back end of the lap. All McLarens in your top 6, I'd say even 7 or 8, maybe even 9. I know Reynolds, though, in 10th is a Porsche. I think the top 9 are all McLarens at the moment.
One of the things that, while you were cycling through some of the D2 cars through the heat, is one of the things that I noticed, Andrew. A bunch of the D2 cars did not decide to go with the McLaren. We did see some Fords, we saw some Porsches, we saw Mercedes here and there, give or take. D1 primarily dominated by the McLaren, but some of these D2 guys taking a little bit of a, maybe a little bit of a risk, a calculated risk, as so to switch up their cars. As we ride with Kimbrough right, or not ride with, but we look on with Kimbrough right now. But some of these, some of the D2 guys do decide to go against the McLaren overhaul of the BOP. So that's really cool to see. Like we see here, Winstone P2 right now in D2, Willis P3 in a Mercedes, Jose DeLeo at P4 in a Mercedes. So I mean, the difference of car choice from D1 to D2 is kind of interesting to see, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch as the season progresses. Trin there was looking to the inside, but it's really cool to see some of the variation in D2 versus D1.
Yeah, Division 1 seems like they all needed to go for the meta if they wanted to be competitive up front, which I understand, right? I get it from the competitive side, but man, I hate seeing 9 McLarens lead the race. Nothing against McLaren. I'm so glad this car is on iRacing. We waited a long time for an updated McLaren GT3 car, and this car is amazing, but maybe a little too amazing as far as the iRacing BOP goes. As you see in the background, Ulrich and Steinhoff, they're now putting in the work, the grit, the blood, sweat, and tears to catch up to these top 4. Also, I have to call out Scott Kimbrough for the best of reasons here, Zach. Between the invert, putting him first, and now the disconnection of his nearest competitor at the time, David Schwartz, I'm going to put that up for consideration for Lucky Performance, Lucky Break of the Day, on 2 counts. First of all, that he got P1 from the get-go. Secondly, that his closest competitor at the time dropped out and bought him more time to save his stuff and try to hang on to this front spot a little bit longer. I don't know if it's going to pay off for him. Don't know where he's going to finish, but it might just work out.
I agree with you, Andrew, as far as everything that you had just mentioned there, and he's keeping a good pace right in front of Rayleigh out. Pecorini, hasn't really fallen into their grasp. They have caught up about 3/10 since the last time we truly talked about it. Rayleigh now 7/10 behind Kimbrough, but like you said, Andrew, his nearest competitor is gone. He could take a little bit of a breath there, maybe stop white knuckling the wheel and just kind of drive his cars. We got a car sideways, so I will agree that's
Chao Trin again.
Trin, yeah.
Also, Craig Yessen seems to come into the pit lane. So he will come in for service, and this looks to be a quick fuel stop for Yessen. He'll work back onto the racetrack. So that is the first, and here comes another in the background. That is going to be Andy Ray Miller, I believe. Yes, it is. Coming out of the pit lane and taking his first service of this feature race. Let's go back and see what happened to Chao Trin. This is down the front stretch. He's just behind Antonicelli as something goes wrong down here in turn number 1. Also, Antonicelli, if you go back and watch this broadcast, got to get those league decals fixed on your race car here to count for points. But let's see what happens down here in turn 1. Trend to the inside, had a great look down there, and Antonicelli just moved down. I don't know, that's... I feel like that's a heads-up racing zone. You have to expect that here after such a long straightaway, Zach. I feel like you have to be ready for somebody to be on your inside.
Yeah, Trent, I mean, obviously the front clip of that car in front of the 61 was not there, so he probably didn't have the downforce trend looking to the inside. I think he had a good heads-up play to try to let the 61 gather it back up. It's just unfortunate 74-80 gets into the back of him, not expecting a bit of a checkup there in turn 1, and Trent gets the worst end of the deal.
I don't have a great camera angle down here to show exactly how far alongside the 88 was. This might show it. This might show a better idea. He dives. This is close. I can see Stewart's ruling either way on that, because that is a bit of a risky dive bomb from Chow. But at the same time, I feel like that's a heads-up racing moment, and maybe Antonicelli has to expect that, being that it is such a long straightaway and he has damage. He was kind of holding that line up. I can see both arguments.
Yeah, I could see both arguments too. It looked like the 61 maybe just was already committed to the fact of getting to the inside of turn 1, and by the time maybe he realized Trin was there, and maybe it was a little bit too late. Trin, like you said, on the opposite end of the spectrum, maybe threw it in a little bit too late. He did make his move well known though in 1. I mean, he pretty much disappeared from Antonicelli's rear view mirror coming into turn 1. So I'd agree. It's really just a toss-up, so we'll thank goodness we're not up in the tower trying to break this one down, as the leaders now, all 4 coming in pit road.
Yeah, there's Kimbrough, Rayleigh, Alvarez, Pecorini, Steinhoff, all in. Something happened to Thorsten Ulrich the last couple of laps. He fell back. He'll enter right alongside Andre De Silva. Here comes Tommy Kinkowski. He comes in. Miguel Colon comes in. I love this camera. This shows the run-up to pit lane perfectly. Here comes Alex DeMarco, Chris Winstone. Everybody that hasn't already pitted coming in this lap. And this is lap 13 on to 14, it seems, as there is Kimbrough. He will be released and head down the pit lane now and exit.
Just jumping behind Kimbrough coming out of pit road. He did come in with Rayleigh and those guys behind him pretty much about a second off. He's going to exit with about 2.5 seconds over Pecorini. Pecorini gained a lot of positions coming out of pit road. I believe he jumped from 4th now to 2nd, but Kimbrough, huge advantage coming out of pit road.
And I'll show you exactly why with this graphic here. 13.35 seconds in the box for Kimbrough, 14.47 for Pecorini, and about 15.58 for Rayleigh. So you can see the ladder of who took more fuel. 16.05 there for Alvarez. For Steinhoff, 13.65, so he gained some ground. Ulrich, 14.6. De Silva, 15.28. Jankowski, 15.13. Cologne, 16.25. And Reynolds, 15.72. The big highlight is Kimbrough took the least amount of fuel out of all those drivers, even less than Yannick Steinhoff. This is going to be a big time throw it all into the wall and see if it sticks kind of moment for Scott Kimbrough.
No, I agree with you there, Andrew. I mean, being the leader, you're the first guy punching the biggest hole of air, or into the air, so to say, so you're going to have to be using more fuel. I did want to mention, though, that these guys did pit under 20 minutes to go. We are at almost 16 minutes left in this race, so it doesn't look like another pit stop is going to have to happen. So Kimbrough, as the leader, he's going to try to take it as much fuel advantage as possible, or less fuel advantage. Big send there from the 10 car under the 64. Will not be able to have the position, but will have the run down the front stretch here.
That was Hector Alvarez to the inside of Thomas Rayleigh. This is Alvarez's very first race with the North American Racing League, and he is on track for a top 5 here in the feature. Here he goes, looking for a podium spot. Thomas Rayleigh defending. There's the move. Alvarez to the inside. Rayleigh gives him just enough room, and they'll race heads up off the corner with Yannick Steinhoff in their mirrors. Contact there to turn 2.
Like you said, a little bit of contact there. Alvarez able to hang in the 64.
More contact.
Rayleigh able to hold him off. Contact. Now here comes Steinhoff. He's going to throw his hat into the mix. He's going to watch these guys battle it out coming into 5 and 6 or 6 and 7.
He's going to pull 3 maybe.
Doesn't decide to take it. This is going to hold up Steinhoff just a little bit. That's not what he needs to see. Alvarez finally completes the pass over Haley. Haley not going to let him get away though, but now Steinhoff will have his targets set right on Rayleigh. So a big battle here with pretty much race implications for all 3 of these guys as far as time.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 second gap up ahead between Kimbrough and Pecorini, but these 3 are heads up for the next 3 spots. 3rd, 4th, 5th, Alvarez, Rayleigh, Steinhoff battling here. And Steinhoff's got a great look. He's going to pull the inside. That's going to be a dive. The Nexus driver holds him off for now, but no, they squeeze. They bump and scrape. And Steinhoff's going to have a run.
He was really playing that defensive line. He gave Steinhoff just enough of a look to make sure that he had the vehicle. Steinhoff flashing his lights, not happy with Rayleigh, maybe just the fact of only giving him just enough of a lane to have a chance there. But Rayleigh playing a really, really big defensive game here, making sure that Steinhoff doesn't really have any kind of run. Now down the front stretch, this is where it's all going to pay dividends. Does Steinhoff have a run? He looked to have one there, gave it up just a little bit, looking to have a run again.
I think he lifted. I think he's hanging out. He knows he can still draft up and get a run. Here it is. This is up to turn number 1, and there's the send. Steinhoff takes it. Rayleigh trying to cross him back. Can't do it. They about ran into the exhaust pipe of Yannick Steinhoff there and had to check up. Thomas will not be happy with that. I wouldn't be. I mean, that's racing, though. All fair, I think, between both of those drivers. I know Yannick flashed Thomas, and Thomas maybe wouldn't be happy about that, but that's heads-up racing. It's at the top 5 in one of the top GT3 leagues on the iRacing sim. That's just, it's going to get heated. It's going to get close like that, and these guys are racing for all they can. Here is 8th and 9th, Tomek Jankowski and Miguel Colon. They are the next best battle on the racetrack. Then it would be Johan Flammen, now with a front bumper, and Mark Reynolds for 10th and 11th. Down in Division 2, though, Zach, we've got ourselves a race for the win. It is Alex DeMarco still, but he has been caught up by Chris Winstone, and don't look now, but Gritzko's in the midst. He's not too far back. DeLeo, Willis, they're all relatively close.
Yeah, these guys are within pretty much, let me see, it looks like they're within 10 seconds of each other, and these guys are sitting all behind nose to tail as far as position-wise in D2. There's no D1 in between them. So this is straight up for position racing for D2. Obviously, you talked about it earlier, you want every position, D1 and 2 combined, but now with D2 all stacked together, these guys now are probably going to start laying it on the line as we ride on board with Chris Winstone, P2 in D2 right now. Was looking a little bit inside, maybe had a little bit too much of a run, had to back out of it, but Chris Winstone right now looking directly right at the leader of D2.
And Winstone could very well be the very first driver in the North American Racing League to sweep one of these races in class, at least, one of these days of racing, if you will. He won the heat race, looking to win the feature. It's going to take a big effort, though, to get up by that number 2 McLaren. Also want to shout out the car directly in front of them, Zach. During that entire set of coverage for the Majors 24, we had a great team to talk with, and that was Aerokinetics Red in LMDH, Hypercar, GTP, whatever you want to call it. Here is the lone Aerokinetics car in the North American Racing League, Lucas Souza, joining us this evening in the 12th position currently as they run. But back here for the Division 2 lead, it's about that time. We've been able to watch the heat sprint race. We've had all this time now in the feature race. We've got a talk driver of the day as Dan Willis goes around on turn number 3, it looks like. He'll get back going. But Zach, it's driver of the day time. We've had enough time to sit back and watch these guys, about 50 minutes of racing total. And we have to nominate 2 from each class. So 1 from each class each here. And being that you're new, I'll take it easy on you. I'm not going to put you on the spot just yet, because obviously these guys are a lot to try and take in, but we do also now have a battle shaping up for the lead in overall. So we're going to have a crazy run to the end here. Let's try and get this out of the way. I'm going to put up for nomination Yannick Steinhoff. Round one, out of the gates, led the way there in the opener, and has driven through the field. Let's see, where did he start here in the feature? 15th. He's had a rough go of things in the feature. Up to third now, as he goes by Alvarez. Yannick Steinhoff would be very hard for me to pass up.
Yeah, I like that pick, and I was kind of thinking of Steinhoff as well, but I'm kind of leaning towards right now Edoardo Pecorini. We kind of documented there. He was kind of laying in wake with Steinhoff, and he did finish P2 of, if I remember correctly, no, he did not, but he was one of the front runners for the heat race. He had to come down pit road, so he did not finish there. He luckily was a part of the invert, came out of pit road behind Kimbrough, almost 3 seconds behind him, now on the back end of Kimbrough. We had talked a lot about Kimbrough, and he was going to be one of my considerations, but now with Pecorini right on his tail, I got to go with Pecorini here as far as D1.
Yeah, and I hate to pass up Scott Kimbrough because this could be his day to finally get a win. But I think he might have won in the past, but this could be his day to get the first feature win of the season of anybody here with this new race format. But I can't look past Yannick Steinhoff and everything he's done to move back up into third spot now in this feature. So that's Steinhoff and Pecorini off the board in Division 1. Let's look down at Division 2. Zach, I will give you the floor here for Division 2 because I have a feeling you might take this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking through D2 a little bit, but one of the guys that I kind of want to jump with right now is Alex DeMarco, obviously the leader of D2 right now. He was one of the cars up there battling with D1, obviously slid a little bit because of D1 starting to pretty much reform themselves, but I mean, the fact that he was battling with D1, slid a little bit overall, but still overall P1 in D2, P1 in D2, not P1 overall. But I gotta go with Alex DeMarco. Like I said, battling through D1 like that, all these cars, all these quicker cars being able to get by him, but he hasn't really gone through much of a slide. He's been able to confidently keep his car in one piece throughout all of that. So my pick is going to have to go with Alex DeMarco in D2.
And my pick, you already see him on the screen. I thought you were going to take him, but Chris Winstone, he's not in a McLaren. He won the heat race. He's now second, going for first in the feature. Here he goes, maybe on the inside. Can he get DeMarco in turn 1? Answer is yes. Move Chris Winstone back to the Division 2 race lead, and that is after being head-on into a barrier on lap 1 in this 40-minute race. Some 30 minutes later, here he is taking the race lead back away in class. I can't pass him up. Chris Winstone is my nomination for D2 driver of the day. Now, this vote will happen overall, so it's not a class driver of the day, it is an overall driver of the day. A D2 driver can win it. The vote is now live on YouTube. I know there were other great drivers that we could have nominated. We can only nominate 4, and we have to give a fair share between classes 1 and 2. We would nominate more if we could, but this is the reality of the situation, and it makes it that much more prestigious to be nominated and to win a Driver of the Day vote in the North American Racing League. Here we go. For position number 1, 7 minutes to go. That's about 5 laps. This is heads up for the race lead now, Zach. Side to side, door to door, wheel to wheel down to turn 1. Pecorini with the advantage, but Kimbrough on the inside.
Kimbrough really did not want to let him go down the straight, using each other's air, so to say, side draft if you're a NASCAR fan. It pulled him back just a little bit. The 47 able to take over the P1 spot overall. Kimbrough now has the battle right in front of him pretty much. Pecorini are able to put up about a half-second gap already since taking the lead going into turn 1. But right now, it's looking likely that Pecorini here might have the car to beat if Kimbrough needs to step up a little bit. But as we kind of talked about it, Steinhoff has put himself within 4 seconds. When the last time we documented him, he was still making a pass for P3. He just made a pass to get on the podium. He's already within 4 seconds, almost within 3.5 seconds now behind these guys. So still with 5 minutes left, we've got a couple laps to go, but still a lot of racing to be had around this massive track.
Yeah, it's going to be somewhere in the range of 3, maybe 4 laps. for these drivers to finish out this race. And Steinhoff, that gives him just enough time, maybe, to get up to Kimbrough. I don't think he gets to the race lead. It's up to Kimbrough now to upset Pecorini for this race win. Otherwise, I think we watch car 47 power away to his very first North American Racing League win, at least that I can recall. He might have one obscure win somewhere from early on in his NARL career, but this is the first one that I can recall him being faced to win. This could be big for Pecorini to lead the championship possibly after race number 1. We'll wait and see how things work out for race number 2, though. Here's deep in the top 10, Miguel Colon working on Tomek Jankowski. Jankowski making his debut here in the series. Miguel Colon would like to move up another spot.
Kind of laying behind Jankowski, and obviously, with new drivers coming in, some been in NAR up a while, don't know how to drive around these guys. Maybe so to say, as we see Capone here take to the outside of turn 1. That's going to be a power move if he's able to stick it. He's able to stay alongside for the time being.
Oh.
Will stay side by side. Jankowski tries to close the door, but overshoots the corner a little bit. Cologne going to try to have a crossover here. Not going to be there as of right now, but great racing by these guys. And this is what I was saying. Some of these guys may not know how to race around each other, may not know each other very well. This is a great way to get an understanding. So we look here, a car coming down pit road. That is Godoy here coming out of pit road.
And that is a pass-through penalty for Paulo Godoy. Unsure as to the reasoning. I would imagine incident discretion there, as we've got a battle for 6th position. Andre Da Silva in his very first North American Racing League run. He is in 7th, putting pressure on Thomas Rayleigh, who was not so long ago racing for a win. Rayleigh, with a long pit stop, maybe didn't save enough fuel, has dropped back and has been saving since, it looks like, and might be mired in that 6th, could be 7th position as Da Silva looks on. Jankowski sits behind these guys with Cologne and Flamen in his tow. Then Reynolds and Souza, 11th and 12th. And we've got a battle in the top 3 of Division number 2. Alex DeMarco, Jose DeLeo. DeLeo making that manufacturer switch from a Ford Mustang a season ago to a Mercedes AMG GT3 here for season number 8. DeLeo going for 2nd.
Guys within 2 seconds of each other from leader. Back here to DeLeo in 3rd position of D2 within 2 seconds is really, when you think about it, it is a substantial amount of time, but then again, it isn't. One slip up by the lead right there with him. So DeLeo right now, we kind of talked about him just a tiny bit. We had saw him when we were talking about the lead change from D2 from Winstone to DeMarco. DeLeo kind of was at the back of that battle, but now here he is looking to go for P2 in D2 as a big move. Looks to the inside, will look to the outside now coming into turn 1 on DeMarco.
DeMarco trying to fend off Jose DeLeo rather, and he will do so for now, but for how long can that McLaren keep that Mercedes at bay? This again for 14th overall, 2nd in Division number 2. Deeper in the field, further up in the field, Thomas Rayleigh hanging on to 6th over 7th. That is Andre Da Silva in 7th, and Tomek Jankowski has maintained ahead of Miguel Colon long enough for Johan Flamen now to put pressure on driver 87. One car slow to the right, that is the 420 machine of Manuel Sandoval, I do believe. And there's a battle deep in the field as Christian Gritzko has to revisit pit lane. Question is, Zach, is this for fuel or a penalty? And it seems it's for a penalty for Gritzko, a driver that was for a while in the top 3 in Division number 2, now dropping all the way outside of the top 10 in class. Here's a nice little battle though. Ooh, Armando Aarons passing Joshua Benjamin. Benjamin slow. That was the leader that just went by. It was Eduardo Pecorini putting them a lap down.
Like he just kind of slowed into turn 1 to let the leader go, which
and
is
look at that
move. Well, white flag here. Pecorini here looks to take into a white flag, and probably again now even more so a heads-up move by some of these guys to let the leader by now that the white flag is out.
So that is your official look at the white flag. We should get that graphic up in the final 10 seconds or so of the lap. Boy, we were very close to going on to one more lap there, but the pace just slow enough to to end here on what will be lap 22 as opposed to 23. A lot of gravel there in that corner. And there's a battle for second. Scott Kimbrough has been caught, more or less, by Yannick Steinhoff. This is going to be interesting to watch as the lap goes on. Flemin has passed Cologne. Winstone with no pressure. DeMarco, though, and DeLeo, here they are through the opening portion of the lap. This again for second in Division 2. We'll keep monitoring that as Eduardo Pecorini comes around to what should be turn number 12. 20 seconds to go on the time. This is the white flag brought to you by Whiplash Simcams. Final time around for Eduardo Pecorini. I'm trying to recall a time he's gone to victory lane in the past. I can't so far. I'm going to bill this as his first win. It might be his second regardless. It's going to be a statement victory for Eduardo Pecorini. He's going to win the feature race at Mugello and put himself atop this series standings, at least in the feature race category. Kimbrough second, Steinhoff third, down to division number 2. It's Chris Winstone leading the way. He's about to pass a D1 driver in Lucas Souza, and the battle for second is right behind him. DeMarco and DeLeo, here they go, Zach.
Coming through the final corners of this race, DeLeo trying to get everything that he can.
Here's one.
Well, gets a good run here. He might look to the inside or to the outside. He does. This might be a power move for him. DeMarco has to play defensive now, especially coming onto the front. DeMarco will be able to take and hold that position.
Alex DeMarco going to power away to that second spot as Chris Winstone will cross the start-finish line and sweep division number 2 today. Congratulations, driver 37. He's the first to do it in this brand new race format, the very first to sweep a race day in victory lane. Eduardo Pecorini, though, winning atop the overall standings. Some other cars coming out to finish the race. Dean Kerr comes across the line. Paulo Godai, Kevin Peak. Decent recovery there, up to 21st. Ryan Passage, he was mentioned by some fans in YouTube as a driver to be an honorable mention for driver of the day. Francesco Antonicelli there in 24th. Anthony Wayand will finish 25th so long as he makes it back around to the stripe this time by, and he will, it looks like. Mark Booley, 26th, and we'll go through your full race results in just a few moments, and then we'll be talking to drivers after this race. Eduardo Pecorini, though, I cannot get enough of this. This is a big, big statement win for him. I believe a season ago, and maybe even 2 seasons ago as well, he and Rayleigh were teammates. I believe he's now flying solo from Thomas Rayleigh, so to no longer have that teammate to bounce ideas off of Zach, but still win this first race, that's huge.
Yeah, especially when it comes to, like you said, the points buffer that he's now going to have over all the other drivers, especially like what we were talking about earlier. Steinhoff coming in P3 obviously will be closer in points, but Pecorini, with having that little bit of a gap now going into race 2, now that it's a month out, he has a little bit of a buffer. He could have a little bit of a sigh of relief now. I mean, a heck of a drive, like we mentioned, being almost 3 seconds behind Kimbrough to come up, pass, and then gap Kimbrough for it. It's just an impressive drive from Pecorini.
And I really thought Steinhoff would have second, but he ends up a half second shy of Scott Kimbrough there. He will have to settle for the 3rd spot. Let's back up the replay just a hair and take a look at our unofficial race results after both the heat and feature race. These are the feature race results, and I've been notified as well by Scott Reister that drivers will earn points just the same between the heat and the feature, which is huge. That means if you're a sprint race expert, if you're an endurance race expert, it doesn't matter. Something is going to suit your fancy, right, Zach? I mean, you've got a little bit of everything over the course of a night, and that's double points as well now compared to what used to be single points every week. We're going to have a crazy new championship on our hands. I'm excited for what this season is going to bring with that information now in mind. But here's a look at your unofficial race results overall. Eduardo Pecorini, first place. Scott Kimbrough, second. Yannick Steinhoff, third. Well, I think that was pretty well documented up front. Hector Alvarez slipped down to the 4th spot. Thorsten Ulrich into 5th. Thomas Rayleigh, 6th. Andre Da Silva, a very impressive debut from Hector Alvarez as well, but also Andre Da Silva and and Tomek Jankowski. 3 brand new drivers inside the top 10. Very impressive starts from each of them to their NARL careers. Miguel Colon 9th, and Mark D. Reynolds, he has climbed the ranks lately. He will finish 10th.
Continuing on with that, Lucas Souza will finish P11. And then we get into the top 3 of D2. As previously mentioned, 12th overall, first in D2, Chris Winstone will finish P12. Alex DeMarco, P13. Jose DeLeo will finish P14, first, second, third in D2. After that, Edgar Ruiz will finish P15. Mitch Benaventura will finish P16. Johan Flamen will finish 17th. Billy Bowerman will get up to 18th after starting P32, pretty much shotgun on the field. Billy Bowerman able to pop off a top 20. Good to see him there. He will actually finish P4 in class, P18 overall. So great drive from him. Dean Kerr, D2 as well, finished P19th. Paulo Godoy, I believe he had a penalty during the race. He recovered pretty nicely to pop off a top 20 as well.
And finishing down in 21st position, Kevin Peak in car 101. He was in shambles. That car was dismantled at the beginning of the heat race, so decent recovery there, nearly to the top 20 this evening in the feature. Ryan Passage, a driver that drew some eyes over the course of the race, will finish 22nd in the feature. Then Jake Browder and Francesco Antonicelli, they will each be looking for a better result next race out at Sebring. Anthony Wayand, their Division 2 driver, in 25th. Then Mark Booley, Christian Gritsko, Craig Yessen, Armando Aarons, and Joshua Benjamin, the last 2 of those drivers, each 1 lap down at the front end of that first lap behind the race leaders.
Continuing on, 1 lap down behind the race leaders, finishing 31st overall. Chow Trin, we kind of documented him. Unfortunate circumstance put him kind of behind the 8 ball, finishes 1 lap down, P31 overall. Robert Gadanoli will finish P32. Manuel Sandoval will finish 33rd. Dan Willis, 34th. Andy Ray Miller will finish 35th, 13 laps down. This is where the disparity starts to happen. David Schwartz will finish 36th. Bobby Flack, 37th. Ricardo Delgado, 38th. Sam Soyd left the race early, 22 laps down, finished 39th. And Mike Braun will finish top 40.
Again, the last driver here, I think that will be shown, if he's shown, he actually won't be, because he was disqualified. Scott Angelo, disqualified during the heat race, will take no points this race. And I do believe as well, if we actually bring that back up, you have to finish, I believe, 75% of the race to earn points. So 35th on back will all start from square 0 at Sebring. No points to their record, I believe. Andy Ray Miller, David Schwartz, Bobby Flack, Ricardo Delgado, Sam Soyd, and Mike Braun, all I believe will be at 0 points going into round number 2 in a few weeks. That will conclude the driver of the day vote. For a while, Zach, Chris Winstone had the lead, but he'll be passed up late by Eduardo Pecorini. And let's bring in our race winner, our feature race winner, that is, and our North American Racing League driver of the day, Eduardo Pecorini. Eduardo, I seem to recall you've always been towards the front of the field, but I can't actually recall if you've got a win to your credit yet or not. I've billed this as your first, but I admit, maybe there was a first in there somewhere prior.
Oh. No, Andrew, you're right. Thank you, but this is my first win. As you said, I've been to the front of the pack several times, but I never got a win last race from last season in Daytona. I got second place at the line by 0.1. So now this is my first one, so really happy. And I want to thank P1Docs.com for their setups. And Fiercely Forward team, always a shout out to them. Really happy to be here and to be part of this amazing league.
And as you mentioned, your very first win here in this series. You've been a key component at the top of the field for a couple of seasons now, I believe. Certainly last season you were one to be reckoned with, but now you finally have that win under your belt. How big of a weight is this off of your shoulders moving forward the rest of the season?
man, this is really good, a really good start. As you said, we've been touching the front of the field several times, 2 seasons already, or ups and downs and during the races, but start like this, it's just amazing. We prepared for this, so really, really happy, man, really, really happy, and a big thank you to Scott and everybody from the league, and to you guys too for your amazing work in narrating.
And I gotta ask as well, brand new racetrack to the series, brand new race format. How do you feel about each of those? Of course, this is a challenging racetrack for GT3 cars, and a pretty challenging format, it looks like, for all of you drivers as well.
Mugello, it's a beautiful track. In my opinion, it's a great track, great choice to have it on the league. The new tire model is challenging with the format that we have, with a full pace lap. The tires are really, really cold, so the first lap is extremely tricky. And the race format, the sprint race and then the feature race, it was a killer, man. The sprint race was a blast. We were tight on fuel. I actually ran out of fuel while running in second place in the last lap in the straight, and I lost second and third place and went down to fourth. So it was really interesting, really great show, I guess, to the guys watching.
It was definitely a lot of fun. Congratulations to the first feature race winner in the North American Race League GT3 series, and I can't wait to see how many more you can add up the rest of the season.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks a lot.
That is Eduardo Pecorini this evening, your driver of the day here this evening at Mugello. I'm glad he likes this racetrack. I was able to persuade Scott to change it over from Imola to Mugello, and I'm sure somebody out there won't like that, but I'm glad Eduardo at least liked it, Zach. This is a really cool racetrack to debut here on the channel, not only for us, but also for the series. A really cool way to do it. Scott Kimbrough headed away from second.
Continuing on with that, I do kind of want to ask Scott about his opinions on Mugello, but first and foremost, Scott, you put on one heck of a race. We were kind of documenting at the start of the race about how you had a bunch of heat on you, so to say. The heat, unfortunately, pretty much died off thanks to a connection issue. Talk to us a little bit about your race and what you saw as far as the first time at Mugello, and what was your opinion on Mugello?
I don't mind the track. I like the track. It's fun. It's different. It's definitely got that European flair with a little bit of chicane action, a little bit of, there's not really any track limits, so you got to find where the track limits are, because you can go off in a lot of places and widen the track out. So it's seems to me like a very European theme track. So, but it's got a good flow. It's fun to drive. The new tire model definitely made things different, trying to, just manage that. And it caught me out a little bit in the first race because I kind of got beat up in like turn 1 and turn 2, and I just lost my focus was keep the tires under me in the first lap of the first race, and all that was going on, and I just forgot about it for a second, and all of a sudden the car was going sideways.
Yeah, we had kind of talked about that too, just the car changes and the track changes that you had to go through as far as the first heat and the feature in and of itself. So I'd say with everything that you had to go through, tonight was a pretty good night to finish P2 overall with everything that had happened. But I did want to ask you about the new format, the heat races and the feature. What's your feeling on that one so far?
I like it. It's definitely gonna, mix the racing up. It should make it more exciting for you guys with the broadcast as the season goes on. So it was very stressful for me, to be honest. So in the first race, I was 26th on the white flag lap, and I finished 15th because of people running out of fuel and crashing into people running out of fuel. And I thought, that was great. I got lucky, made a bunch of positions. I thought the invert was based on qualifying. And then I grid up and find out I'm on the pole. I was like, oh no, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. Because I knew those guys would be coming behind me, and I had no idea. My goal was keep the car clean, make sure I made fuel numbers that I wanted to hit, and hope to see if I could stay in the top 5. And it worked out better than that, so no complaints.
Well, like you said it yourself, it was a lucky break. You are a recipient of our Lucky Performance Lucky Break of the Day, like you said, just with everything that had happened in Heat. And then just to grid and BP1, I'd say that's a pretty lucky break for you, for sure. But hey, we appreciate it. Like you said, we had documented a lot of the going on, you involved in a lot of it as so we appreciate you coming in here. We hope you have yourself a good night, and we hope to be talking to you again here soon.
I appreciate it very much. Looking forward to the season. Thank you guys, as always, for the great broadcasts.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is your Division 2 second place finisher. Sorry, Division 1 second place finisher. I'm sorry, Scott. Oh, man. Division 1 second place finisher, Scott Kimbrough. Let's move on down to your Division 2 race winner, though. I put him up for nomination for Driver of the Day, and he led that vote for a long time. One of our only Ferrari drivers in the field. I'm glad you brought it back, because it's refreshing to see a Ferrari at the top of the field versus all these McLarens out there. Chris, you were in the top 10 in the heat race. Let's go over that first. How'd that go for you to get that first win on the night?
Well, the heat race was it was fun. I think we were all under the same impression that we were all gonna have to be able to just push the whole way. So there wasn't a lot of moving around. I got jumped by, I think it was Godai. Somebody jumped me real good off the start. I was not prepared for that. And then from there it was just about halfway through I realized I was gonna need to save some fuel, so just relax, and I think I crossed the line with probably half a liter left, so that was really nice. I was really happy with my pace on that one.
And then moving on, of course, to the feature race, you drove through a decent portion of the field after lap 1. Not necessarily the start of lap 1. What happened there in the first few corners? Why did you have to drive back from 22nd place?
Oh, man, there was just a little bit of chaos in front of me. I avoided it for the most part, and then, I kind of got bumped on the rear, but it was nothing too bad. And then I got back on the track, and there was somebody already there to my right. Just tapped me a little bit. I think I had more room to the left, so that's probably, it's just racing incidents, probably more on me than anything. Couldn't save it, but slowed down enough. Just tapped me a little bit. I think I had more room to the left, so that's probably, it's just couldn't save it, but slowed down enough. It wasn't too damaged. Said there was wheel damage, but so I was taking laps just to see how it was feeling, and then once I had confidence, it's okay, it's not broken or anything, I can at least push pretty well. And then I had the fast repair for anything that was there when I pit, so first stint I was able to actually save some fuel and stay out an extra lap, and then I just overfueled it slightly so that I could just hammer it the rest of the way. So that whole second stint I was just trying to push.
Well, as iRacing crashes on us a little bit late here in the evening, we'll throw up some Le Mans B-roll from a couple weeks ago. Chris, congratulations. A race win this evening, both in the heat and the feature. And you can say that you are the very first driver to sweep a heat and feature format here in the North American Racing League. So far, also the only one to do it, so congratulations.
All right, I'll take it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There you go, Chris Winstone with the win in Division 2. We'll move on down to Alex DeMarco, and I will preface this by saying I will try to maintain the graphics here, but I don't think, since iRacing just crashed, we're not going to have a graphic there. Well, enjoy the Le Mans B-roll while we talk about Mugello, and Zach, here is Alex DeMarco.
Speaking here with Alex DeMarco. Alex, we were kind of talking about the invert of Heat to the feature, and you started P2 of the you started P2 on the feature, the first car in the D2 class. I did kind of want to ask you, because obviously their classes are separated by D1 and D2. Starting up that far in front, was there any kind of nervousness, or were you ready for the challenge that was before you?
Oh yeah, absolutely a certain amount of nervousness there for sure. I haven't done the whole reverse grid thing before, and I've never raced at Mugello before on iRacing, so a lot of new experiences altogether. And yeah, I was just doing the best I could to kind of defend as hard as I could and keep it fair. But at the end of the day, I knew some of those guys had way more pace than me, so I just kind of had to let them go and keep it clean.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about it throughout the race about how, you know, just a little bit of a slide through the D1 cars, but you weren't really giving up a lot. Just the cars slowly starting to pick you off. But I did kind of want to talk a little bit about that battle right there at the end. You come up one spot short in D2, but you did have a battle right there with Jose De Leo. You made, for somebody who hadn't seen the track pretty much ever, you made that car look 10 lanes wide and made it stick. Talk to us a little bit about that battle.
Yeah, I mean, again, just trying to do the best I could to kind of keep it clean and really just, you know, trying to anticipate where he was going to try to go. I feel like a lot of the corners in this track, if you really hug the inside and defend hard, when people run out wide, it's hard for them to kind of keep the pace and hanging around the outside. So I was just doing the best I can to kind of read him and seeing where he was going to go. And it was a good battle overall. And luckily I was able to kind of hang on by a thread there.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it right there towards the end about how you were able to hold on to P2 with the hard charging Jose De Leo. And it's, I mean, it did seem like that as well as far as Mugello. This is the first time I'm seeing the track as well, so seeing you guys fly around it, you better you guys than me, if I'm being honest with you. So it's really cool to see you guys flying around the track. We appreciate you taking your time to come up here and talk with us a little bit about the track. Now we got a month wait before the next race, so hopefully we're talking to you then.
Yep, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the next race.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Yep.
And that'll do it for us this evening as far as drivers and racing goes. We can just kind of wrap things up here, Zach. Of course, that was our very first race of season number 8 here for the North American Racing League in their GT3 series. Mugello now behind us means Sebring is in the windshield, and I would not be surprised if every driver and team uses a bunch of this lead up to round 2 at Sebring to just practice and practice and practice and practice and practice some more. Because the big thing about Sebring, every time IMSA goes there, and WEC when they used to, respect the bumps. You have to respect the bumps. It's a racetrack that you have to do more time racing the racetrack than the drivers around you, Zach. You know it as well as I do. We've been on the sim. We've done this for years on iRacing. You have to respect the bumps and do more racing versus Sebring than the other drivers, or you will be in a barrier or at least a gravel trap somewhere. It is such a tricky place to race.
I mean, it really is. And like we were talking about earlier with the cars that have gone through this whole rebuild, and Pepperoni just kind of talked about it too, about how the tires are insanely cold. So over the bumps, cold tires with a new car, I mean, that's just a recipe for any kind of disaster. So I'm looking forward to how those guys tackle it. But like you said, you're racing Sebring more than you're racing the guys around you. The ones that can get the better of Sebring are the ones usually out front. So it is a whole beast in and of itself, and I'm really looking forward to how it plays out when we get to Sebring.
And hey, when iRacing fails and you gotta resort to your B-roll and you don't have Mugello B-roll, just go to the next round. Sebring, we got that on tap, and you can see that in the background, already getting ready for round number 2 coming up soon. We can take a look at what's upcoming for us in general here on Pit Stop TV. Here's a look at the next 3 broadcasts on the channel. This is subject to change as always, but as it stands, the next time we're live will be Slinger Speedway for the Impel National Tour. For the Sim Auto Racing Association, that'll be the Cody Williams Design Slinger Nationals. Then we'll follow up with the Impel Motorsports National Tour Langley Hampton Heat on July 17th. So back-to-back big races for the Sarah National Tour late models on track at 2 very different racetracks, 2 very different late models as well. The Super 1 week, the late model stock the next. Then a week later, and this NARL drivers is why it's going to be a month until your next round. We're kind of fitting 2 leagues into one night right now. 2 really star leagues in their own rights. Sarah is huge on the short track side. You guys are huge on the road side. But it's nearly a month until we go racing at Sebring late in July, and then follow it up with round 3 at, oh gosh, what was it? Montreal. For round 3. So that's a look at what's upcoming for us here, Zach. Final thoughts though here from Mugello.
I mean, I like I had said earlier, this is a really, really cool track. This is the first time I've ever seen it, but the racing that we saw did not disappoint. I was maybe thinking at one point that maybe they'd get so spread out to the point where we wouldn't see passing, where we wouldn't see a lot of racing, and I was completely blown away by the exact opposite. Just the amount of racing that we were able to have, the amount of runs that these guys were able to develop was really, really fun to watch. And I had kept my eye on NARL for a while. I know these guys are pretty much at the top of the road racing spectrum, but to see these guys at the start of the season go all out in a new format, heat and a feature, it was really cool to watch. And like I've said before, I'm so excited for how the rest of the season is going to go. I legitimately am. This is, if this is what this track can produce, and if this is what these drivers can produce, there's no telling what else we're going to see as the season progresses.
Well, thanks for joining us this evening for the North American Racing League. This has been round number 1 here at Autodromo Internacional del Mugello. And of course, the B-roll that you're seeing in the background, that's Sebring. That's the race coming up next for us with the North American Racing League. All brought to you by Maradness, by JS Consulting, by Screw Compressor Service Incorporated, and as always, actually brand new this season, by Rocket Designs. So a big shout out to all those partners. Also want to shout out our partners with the channel, Whiplash Simcams, that's the wrong graphic, Whiplash Simcams, ATVO, CC's Business, Cody Williams Design, Lucky Performance, and the North American Racing League. We'll shake the rust off. We'll be back better for round number 2 at Sebring very, very soon. Until then, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you all next time here at Pit Stop TV.